Kicking it through the uprights, hold tight. Amazing stories, feeling stories, all out of sight. From jaw-dropping tales, just surreal thrills. They're always unreal. Kicking through the uprights, the legend seals the deal.
Hey, Billy, this is Tom Feely. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tom, you're coming in loud and clear. We are recording now.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. This is Tom Feely, and you are listening to the first episode of Kicking It Through the Uprights, Tom's Tall Tales and True Stories. I'm really happy to have you here, especially on this beautiful morning here in Tampa, Florida. It's a Chamber of Commerce day here in Tampa. And this is a beautiful, beautiful scenery here. You're going to see, parks, absolutely gorgeous river walks. To my left is the Strauss Center. The lightning, we're going to be going by where the lightning play. And up ahead is beautiful University of Tampa coming up in a little bit. I'll show it to you when we get there. So today, since it's the first of all my tales, I want to talk a little bit about my background, and where else to start when you're talking about your background than your childhood, right? So I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was raised in an absolutely wonderful family. My father was a coach at the College of St. Thomas. That's what it was called back then. Today it's called the University of St. Thomas. It's significantly larger than it was when I went to school there and before. My father was a head basketball and head baseball coach. He taught physical education courses, was the athletic director for a time, and worked for St. Thomas for 44 or 45 years. And he retired, was inducted into the National Basketball Hall of Fame, which is probably his proudest accomplishments. He used to say, rather humorously, after his career ended, that he had something like 335 wins and 17 disputably poorly officiated games. So that was my father's sense of humor. I had 3 brothers, no sisters, and a wonderful mom. So I was very fortunate growing up in an intact family, very middle class, and we lived in a subdivision of St. Paul called Highland Park. And I want to tell you a little more about that as we go along here today, because it was a lot different back in the 1950s and 60s than it is today in 2025. That's for sure, especially for raising kids. Actually, in many ways, I think it was much better then, or much easier as a parent, and than it is today. So many challenges for parents today. It's hard to fathom. As a matter of fact, as a child, I do recall, and I don't have a lot of memories before 6, 7 years old, but as a child, I recall getting up in the morning, making myself a bowl of cereal every morning. Mom hadn't gotten up yet. Had to meet all my buddies. I had a bunch of friends, lived in the neighborhood. Seemed like all guys but one girl. I'll tell you about the girl a little bit later. But we'd get together right after breakfast, and we'd be gone all day long until dinner. And we all went home to our various homes for dinner, and we came back together again as soon as dinner was over. We had a whole routine that we did that took us all day long if we weren't in school that day, and it was pretty exciting. For example, a lot of things we like to do. First thing we like to do in the morning is play a game. Now we're about, let's say, between 8 and 10 years old, that area, 11 maybe. We played this game called Ante Over. And we take a ball and we throw it up over the house, like over the roof of our house. The other team we're divided into two teams. The other team would be in the front yard. I'm going under a bridge here, so it's going to be real loud. Coming up to the University of Tampa. Hopefully I can get under this bridge when I go back. This is beautiful. So we would throw the ball and it would bounce on the roof, and then hopefully it would bounce to the other side. If they caught the ball as it came off the roof, they caught it in the air, didn't hit the ground, then they could run around the house and hit you with the ball. If they did hit you with the ball, you were on their team, and the guys that escaped were still on the other side, now on the opposite side of the house. That's ante over. If you didn't throw the ball quite far enough and it didn't get over the roof and it came back to your side, you'd yell pigtails. So it'd be like, ante over, pigtails. Okay, until you got it over. And you wanted to get it over, so it took a really bad hop and would be very difficult to catch. So that was kind of like our morning routine. Depending on the season, we had this empty lot in our place, and we would turn that lot into a playing field of some kind. So in the fall, it was our football field. We'd mow the grass, get it really nice, and put lines down with sand. And so we had lines on the field, and we'd play our own football game, our own version of football, which wasn't flag football, but it was tag football. So you had to have two hands and tag the guy in order to be tackled. So that's what we did in the fall. In the winter, we turned the same lot into a hockey rink. So it's real cold now. We couldn't wait. We'd shovel the snow off the rink, turn that into the boundaries outside the rink, grab a garden hose from one of the houses, and spend days filling the rink up with water so that it would freeze solid and turn into a beautiful, beautiful rink. We set up goals on each end, and we play hockey all through the winter. I couldn't tell my dad about that, though, because he I don't know, hockey to him, he was a basketball coach. And so he didn't like seeing athletes being drawn away. And hockey took a lot of good athletes away. So to him, playing hockey was like cheating. It was like you were a traitor to the cause of basketball. So I had to be a little bit careful about what I told him about what my day was like. Going on to the evening then, well, I should say going on to the spring, of course, we turned it into a baseball field. And we had bases, we had everything. So we had to do all this ourselves as kids. You know, we had to make the fields ourselves and then recreate them in the next season. So it was pretty good enterprise and drew a lot of kids to us. And we had a great deal of time, lot of fun doing that. Evening, after dinner, that was reserved for a game called Germ. And this particular game was basically went all over the neighborhood. Anywhere inside the boundaries of our neighborhood was on limits. Any house, didn't matter, any backyard, any front yard, not inside any house or garage, but not inside any buildings. But if you stayed outside, you could hide anywhere. And so what it was one person would be infected, and that person had the germ. And if he tagged somebody, they had the germ too. So it was kind of like, well, this is back in the late 50s now, early 60s. You know, it was kind of like we were giving polio to each other or something awful like that. But you became part of the zombies who had to infect somebody. Okay, we're going under another bridge. So give me a second, I'll pause while the cars fly right over my head as I'm entering here into downtown Tampa. And my, has this changed. It's incredible how much this has changed. It's beautiful now. They've really turned this area into a spectacular tourist. I'm looking over here and I'm seeing go Bucks, go Bucks, go Bucks. The Raymond James Stadium is just a couple miles from here, as is Jesuit High School right next to the Raymond James Stadium. I'll be talking about that later on. I worked there for 20 years, so I have plenty of stories that took place at Jesuit High School. So as we travel through this beautiful city, urban area on a river, on the Hillsborough River, I was reflecting back to my early days of my childhood. So we'd play this game called Germ at night. We'd play until the mothers all went outside and rang their bell. Each of them had a bell that they either, like a school bell, like a big school bell, and they would pull it out and ring it, and that meant it was time to come home because the street lights came on, and that was the other sign that we should be coming home. We didn't always pay attention to that one, but that was sort of the unwritten rule. When the street lights came on, it was time to go home. So we were outside pretty much all day long, except maybe to run into somebody's house to grab a snack, get a drink of water or something, although we usually just drank out of the hose. But it was a really, really fun, pleasant childhood. We did play organized sports. As a matter of fact, my dad was very big part of developing the Highland Park Little League, and then later on, when his sons got a little older, they developed the Babe Ruth Pony League. Both of those were baseball leagues, but we also played organized football, and of course, in every gym, we played basketball. Now, St. Paul in those days was primarily Irish and Jewish. So there was many Catholic schools and Catholic churches in St. Paul, including the big cathedral, but just within 1 mile of my home, there were 3 Catholic churches, all with their own grade schools from grades K through grade 8. And so just, we could have gone to any one of the 3. There was the one I went to, which was then called St. Leo's, named after a future pope. Just kidding. And then we had St. Teresa's nearby, down by the river. That'll come into play much later in my life. And we also had a little tiny school called St. Gregory. And that was only 1 block, but it was so small that we didn't go there. My parents were parishioners at St. Leo, so that's where we attended school. And so some of my neighbors were Jewish, and many of them were Norwegian or Irish. That's the other. Norwegian, of course, is the other predominant ethnic group up in that area of the world. So growing up was just fun, especially for a boy. Now, I mentioned a little girl. We only had 1 little girl in our group. Going on another bridge. We only had 1 little girl in our group, and that little girl was named Maggie O'Brien. Now, her father owned the O'Brien's Bar and Grill down on West 7th Street, which takes you down to downtown St. Paul, and eventually to the Capitol. The Capitol is located in St. Paul as well. So the O'Briens owned this very well loved bar on West 7th Street. And Maggie was the daughter. Now, Maggie was not your typical girl as an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old. She was more of a boy. She was a tomboy. Red hair, freckles, Irish as can be, a temper you wouldn't believe. Every boy thought of her as one of the toughest in the group because she proved it. I mean, we all got bloody noses at her fist for making one crack or another that she didn't like. Now, it wasn't that she was this big bully. She probably didn't weigh but 90 pounds, skinny, as a girl. She was skinny, but she was tough and had an attitude. And she even played on our boys' football team. They made an exception for her. And I thought that was incredible because that never happened in those days. They didn't let girls play boys' sports. They were cheerleaders. But her father got her on the boys' football team, which happened to be our team. And of course, she played middle linebacker. And she was a tough little middle linebacker. You didn't get by her. And that was tackle football with the pads, full pads. So Maggie O'Brien was the one girl in our group, and she made all of us a lot tougher. I do remember years later at a dance, and I was going to an all-boys Catholic school. I believe Maggie was going to an all-girls Catholic school in the same city, and we were attending a all Catholic schools dance for sophomores, I believe it was, 10th graders. And I was looking out on the floor and I saw this absolutely beautiful girl. And I said to my friend, "Who is that?" She was drop dead gorgeous. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, that's Maggie O'Brien. She goes to Durham. Durham's a girls' school." I just about, it had been at least 2 years since I'd seen her, and she turned into a beautiful, beautiful young lady. So, yeah, we're going right by the Tampa Convention Center. I know you can't see it at all, but we're right in the heart of downtown right now. Behind us, I think that's the hospital called Tampa General. It's really, really highly regarded hospital. And I see the Marriott. We'll be going by where the Lightning Bolts play, Go Bolts, and which is our hockey team. So,
Look,
anyway.
it's Tom Feely. Hi, Coach.
Hey! I'll be dang. I have no idea who that is. But apparently know me. Okay. Yeah, so this is the coolest part because you're going to see a lot of pirate ships and big yachts down here. And then if we get deep enough, then you're going to see some gigantic barges. So, yeah, so life was fun. Probably one of my best stories, and I'm really looking forward to telling you this story. One of my best stories that I recall from my childhood is called The Caves. Now, you can read about the caves in my autobiography. It's a book that I'm happy to share with you for free. It's the very first book I've ever written, but it took me 25 years to write the book because it was the stories of my life up to the point where I wrote the book. The book is titled The Tales of Big Cat. Now, where I came up with that title is a whole nother story I'll get into a little later. But it is my autobiography, and the first story in that autobiography is a chapter called The Caves. Now, in St. Paul, there's a river. It's called the Mississippi River. Perhaps you've heard of it. It separates St. Paul from Minneapolis. It actually starts way up on northern Minnesota in a lake called Lake Itasca in Itasca State Park. That's where the river begins, but it meanders through Minnesota and then works its way through the Twin Cities and then eventually becomes the largest, biggest, longest river in the United States, and ends up down in Louisiana, New Orleans area, and then into the Gulf of Mexico from there. So this Mississippi River, it was a big part of our lives because it was very close to us. Like a 5-minute walk, I could be at the river's edge. My father used to keep a boat down on the river, much like here. And we didn't know how dirty the river was back then because all raw sewage was going right into the river. But every time we swam in that river, we'd end up with a bad earache the next day. So we kind of... So the story of the cave happens at the Mississippi River. In the earlier days, there was a fort built. It was the first place where the United States established a fort in Minnesota, and the fort is built right at the top of the cliff on the Mississippi River, and it's called Fort Snelling. It's right across the river from St. Paul. On the St. Paul side, there was a lot of limestone, and so they used to mine the limestone, and they did that by digging straight into these cliffs and creating these long cavernous caves. So we would go exploring the caves. We weren't supposed to. There were signs up, stay out, you know, and they even hired people to guard the caves. Just keep kids like myself and my buddies. But, you know, they couldn't guard all the caves because there were quite a few of them. Some were huge and some were really small. But they were there, and we would go exploring in them. Now, these caves, the big ones especially, they went really, really deep. And you wouldn't have to go very far where it got pitch black, absolute pitch black. So we would always tear up some old sheets into strips, wrap it around a stick or a hockey stick or something, and we'd use that as a torch so that we could see our way through the caves. So one day we were exploring this one big cave we hadn't been in before. And we didn't really know it because it was our first time there, so we're kind of feeling our way around. And sure enough, as soon as we got 100 yards or so away from the mouth of the cave, it got pitch black. And we kept walking, feeling the walls. We had a torch so we could see where we were going slightly. And so we kept finding our way to the very back of the cave. We got to the very back of the cave, and we weren't sure if this was the end, because we could look up and see, we could see the ledge up above. There's just enough light to see that ledge. So being the guy that I was, I volunteered to climb that ledge. I wasn't afraid, and I got up on that ledge and looked down, and I couldn't see anything. There was a big, deep like basement kind of thing. And so I asked somebody to pass me a torch, and I threw the torch down into this deep cavern, which lit it up, and thousands of rats went scattering in every direction, everywhere. I'd thrown the torch right into a huge ton of rats, and that scared the living crap out of me. And when that happened, I decided I'm getting out of there, and I started trying to climb back down the same ledge that I climbed up to get there. And what happened was, I'm hanging on this ledge, and the guys couldn't reach my feet. And I'm hanging, and I'm losing my strength. And finally, my fingers give away, and I end up falling back, and I'm flying all the way down. And of course, the guys got out of my way. They all stepped back and watched me hit the ground. And I hit the ground, and then I realized I was okay. I was a little stunned. I was expecting to be dead at that moment, and I wasn't. So I brushed myself off. I got up, and we started heading back with the last torch we had, trying to find our way back out. And everybody was anxious to get out of there because we realized we were in a big rat-infested cave. So we had a hard time finding our way out, especially because the last torch burned out, wouldn't you know it. And so we had to grope our way around. And there was plenty of times where we didn't know whether to turn left, turn right, go straight, because there was lots of other avenues we could have taken, but none of them but one would bring us to the main entrance where we came in. We finally saw light, and we started running towards the light and yelling and whooping. And as we got into the light of the mouth of the cave, we heard someone yell at us, a man. And he yelled, "Hey, you kids!" And my buddies and I started running for the opening of the cave, which was the wrong way to go because he was standing right there at the opening. And we all kept running as fast as we could to get out of there. As we ran by the guy, I noticed he had a rifle in his hands. And then I realized this is serious. This guy means business. He could kill any one of us. And just then, I heard the loudest bang I ever heard. And that moment, I felt like I was stung by 1,000 wasps all at once, most of them into my rear end. And I hit the ground face first. I face planted straight into the sand, the limestone sand. And my buddies kept running, good friends. And they left me behind. And I got up and the man came over to me and I thought I had been shot and killed, although I wasn't dead yet. He said to me, "You get your," and I won't use the next word, but it starts with an A, "You get your blank out of here, you punk kid. You don't belong here. Get out." And I said, "You shot me, man." He said, "You'll be all right. It's just salt pellets." And so I took off running, and I finally caught up to my friends, who by this time were walking. And they go, "Hey, we thought you were dead." I said, "Yeah, thanks a lot for coming back and checking on me." So that was what life was like as a 10 and 11-year-old in St. Paul. And so that's where I'm going to end today with that story. I do want to let you know that all you need to do is let me know that you'd like access to my book, the one that I said was free, and I'd be happy to share it with you for free. All you have to do is send me an email at tfeely@me.com. I'll say it one more time, tfeely@me.com. So just send me an email, say I'd love to read your book, and I'll send you the link, and you'll have the book. It's a flip book, and so it's even embedded with videos. It's pretty cool. You won't have to download it. You won't have to worry about what type it is, what type of formatting or anything, because it's a flip book. So any device you can watch it on, your phone, your computer, your iPad, whatever. And that's absolutely free. You just got to let me know that you are interested in reading it, and I'll take care of you. For now, thank you for listening today. I will be back soon with episode number 2. I'm looking forward to sharing with you and introducing to you a lot of people that have been in my life that have their own really, really incredible stories. So thanks again, and I will be signing off with this. Now you know the true story.